What is up, guys? Name is Ray and welcome to another Honkai story video. So usually I would do this in the form of a YouTube short, but I wasn't able to get it done in less than a minute. So basically to provide all the information or everything that I want to say in a short video. So yeah, I said let's do a video on that. The topic is about my favorite character today, Bronya. But before we go into the topic of the video, I just want to give a quick shout out to pridewin.gg for providing us with information on their website. So basically everything that you can see on the screen is from pridewin.gg. If you're looking for the tier list or DPS rankings, specific character builds, you can find that here. I will put the link in the description down below. All right, so the debate or the discussion that I want to bring up today is about Bronya versus Tingyun. And even though Bronya is my favorite character, I do believe that in the current state of the game, Tingyun is the better character. And yeah, I want to explain that, of course, in this video. So before we dive in, what is the current state of the game? I think the current state of the game is to be Trailblaze level 40-ish or level 50-ish. In my opinion, the end game in Honkai Star Rail will start at Trailblaze level 60, because this is the point where you can get your end game gear on a regular base. By then, you should have farmed all your traces. You leveled up all your characters to the max, which we're currently still progressing in, because most of the players are Trailblaze level 40-ish or level 50-ish. So yeah, maybe let's get into the skills. So let's start with the skill from Bronya. So no doubt this skill is insanely good. This spells a debuff from a single ally. Alone, this is really good. I think the only character currently that can do this is Natasha, but you have to level up her tree for that. Dispelling debuffs is really relevant in the game, especially if we progress further through the game. Now, allows them to immediately take action and increases their damage by 72% when it's maxed out for one turn. I think the key things are that it can dispel a debuff, it immediately allows them to take action, which is really good, and it is a damage buff, which takes for one turn. Important is damage buffs are a lot stronger than attack percentage buffs in the game. The formula is very similar to Genshin. I'm coming from Genshin Impact, so if you have to decide between attack percentage and damage percentage, it is always damage percentage. And also, let's take a quick look at the ultimate skill. So it increases the attack of all allies by 59% and increases their crit damage equal to 70% of Bronya's crit damage plus 21% for 2 turns. So yeah, if we read the skill, we think it is really insane. And now let's compare this to Tingyun's skill. Grants a single ally with Benediction to increase the attack by 55% up to 27% of Tingyun's current attack. So as said, damage percentage is better. Tingyun provides an attack buff which is weaker than the damage buff from Bronya. When the ally with Benediction attacks, they will deal additional lightning damage equal to 20 to 44% of that ally's attack for one time. Benediction lasts for 3 turns and is only effective on the most recent receiver of Tingyun's skill. Now, we get additional lightning damage, which equals the attack of the ally, which is really good. So I definitely say the skill is weaker than the one from Bronya, but the good thing is it lasts longer, because this only scales off of attack, while Bronya's skill is a damage buff, which is of course a lot stronger, and of course also the number is way higher. But now let's take a look at the ultimate skill. Regenerate 50 energy for a single ally and increases the target's damage by 56% for 2 turns. So it also lasts for 2 turns as long as Bronya's ult, and it is a damage buff which equals her normal skill. So why do I believe that Tingyun is still currently the better character? I do think she is better because of the utility that she provides. So what are the downsides on Bronya? Well, if we're reading the skills, we definitely would say that Bronya's skills are better in terms of damage output. But in terms of utility, Tingyun skills are better, and the reason is this only lasts for 1 turn and it costs a skill. So Bronya is not really a skill efficient character. You always have to use her skill to buff your character, and it kind of costs a lot because support characters, which both of them are supposed to auto attack to get back your skill points, because the most difficult thing in the game is the economy with your skill points. You notice that if you were in a hard fight, sometimes you lack on skill points. That means that you didn't really pay attention on your economy with the skill points. And this is what I'm trying to say here. You always need 1 skill to use that skill for Bronya, but you also need 1 skill for your DPS character. So you always have to buff your character, and then you use your damage ability with a DPS character. So Bronya will always cost you 2 skill points, while you're not really able to buff. You're not really able to auto attack to get back your skill points. And the other downside on the ultimate skill is, attack percentage buff is good because it is additionally to the other effect. So attack percentage is, I'd say, a solid buff, even though it is not as good as damage percentage, as I already said. But this is, in the end game, this will be the insane buff, the crit damage buff. Crit damage buff is really equal to damage percentage buffs. It is insane, but it doesn't matter if you don't have any crit rate. You won't have any crit rate at this level because we weren't really able to farm our relics, because we get the most crit value out of our relics if our light cone doesn't give any crit buffs. So yeah, the most value is from our relics, which we are not able to currently farm. We're technically we can farm 5-star relics, but it is inefficient to do this before level 60 actually. So I don't say anything if you're doing things. So you can do with your Trailblaze power what you want, and if you're lucky, then good for you. Then Bronya is the better character. But yeah, I just try to do it from a free-to-play perspective, and yeah, these are like the raw numbers. So basically, her ultimate skill is not that good on the current level, because we mostly will only get the attack percentage buff. Of course, besides, if your DPS is able to get some crit rate, then the ultimate skill will be insane. But if you're not able to crit, then you will only make value out of the attack percentage buff. Now, the good thing on Tingyun is her buff lasts 3 turns, which means you can give the buff to your DPS characters and auto attack for 3 turns after the buff expires, and then you can give it back to your DPS characters. But in that time, you can regenerate skill points for your DPS characters or for your team, which Bronya cannot really do, because because every turn you have to decide if you want to either buff a DPS character or do an auto attack. While for Tingyun, you doesn't have to make that decision. It's a better utility in that point. Of course, the buff is weaker than the one from Bronya, but you can keep that up for 3 turns while leveling up your skill points, and your econ or your economy with your skill points will be much better from that. The next good thing is that her ultimate skill also always will make value, because it is a damage buff that is always guaranteed. You do not have to rely on any other stats. Of course, you have to rely on your stats, because the more stats you have, the better a buffer will be. But for Bronya, it is like exponentially better if you have stats on your DPS character and also if you have stats on Bronya. But for Tingyun, it doesn't matter that much as for Bronya, because you will always get the damage buff, and it also lasts for 2 turns. And in addition to that buff, we get 50 energy back for our ultimate skill, which is really valuable for our character. So the utility that Tingyun provides is she has to use her skill less often. She can attack more often with auto attacks to regenerate us skill points. She regenerates energy for our DPS characters. We have to do less actions to use ultimate skills on our DPS characters, and she has a buff that is always guaranteed. So yeah, I hope it did make sense how I explained the difference between those characters. Yeah, as soon as we're like more in the later states in the game, which, as I said, will probably start at around Trailblaze level 60, I think that the difference will hit, and probably Bronya will start to outscale Tingyun there. In terms of damage, Bronya will most of the time will still be better than Tingyun, but I really value the utility that Tingyun currently has a little more than Bronya. So yeah, all I wanted to say now is if you have Bronya and if you have Tingyun, currently I would rather use Tingyun, honestly though. And if you don't have Bronya, Tingyun will be up in the current banner in Jingyun's banner, so maybe you want to think about summoning on her. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Mostly doing YouTube shorts right now, so subscribe if you want to see those, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.